welcome to the panel MTG Cosplay from Art to Finish. Today we have up here Ashlen Rose.
Hello. Oh, there we go. Hi.
Jessica Burton.
Hi.
And Vanessa Lee Koss.
Hello.
And today we are going to be talking about specifically Magic the Gathering cosplay. So to start us off, Ashlen, can you tell us how you got into Magic cosplay? And let's just start with, how did you get into cosplay in general?
Oh,
and then was Magic your first?
All right, so no, Magic was not my first. My first cosplay ever was Hinata from Naruto. I went to an anime convention probably about 4 years ago called Fanime, and I saw people dressing up in like the really cool ways that they came up with making their costumes, and it just got me really excited about like what cosplay was, and I just got hooked from there.
Okay.
And then I guess my first Magic cosplay was Soren Markov. It was a long time ago, but it was my first foray into it, and I had a lot of fun with it.
All right, Jessica?
I first started cosplaying in 2007, so a long time ago, kind of old. And it was Aerith from Final Fantasy VII, and it was at Otakon in Baltimore. And from there, it kind of evolved. My first Magic cosplay was Liliana of the Veil, and I did that at PAX 2014, I think. And the really cool thing about that kind of sealed the deal that, like, WotC really cared about people cosplaying Magic was two employees came up to me like out of the blue, and they were like, "Hey, this is really cool that you're doing this." And I was like, "Whoa, they have shirts on from WotC. This is awesome. Cool. Okay, hi." And the one guy flipped his deck out and was like, "Pick a card and keep it." And it ended up being the German version of Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Wow.
So I like framed it at home like, I won this because I was Liliana and I'm so cool. So it kind of continued. I was like, wow, they really do care and notice us. So
that's pretty amazing.
It was a really good experience.
Vanessa?
Magic was my first cosplay. I started a couple years ago after I went to a GP just for fun. I had never been to a convention or anything. So I saw a cosplayer and I was like, dude, that's super cool. So I made my first one and it went really well and I really enjoyed it. It's my own way of appreciating the artists. And being a part of the game myself.
What was your first cosplay?
Nihiri.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah. I do remember seeing that one. All right, so I believe you've since then done a couple of cosplay, non-Magic related cosplay, correct? So you've probably all been to, as we're here at SCG CON, which is the first of its kind for us here at Star City Games. We do obviously also have Grand Prix events and things like that, with Grand Prix Vegas and things being a lot more of the convention feel and atmosphere. What would you say the biggest difference is between cosplaying at a Magic style event and a non-Magic event, like a regular convention, either an anime con or a PAX or something like that? Ashlen?
I would say it's very different. Like, it's really cool because a lot of people at GPs, they can recognize the card and they get really excited about being able to share that experience because they have that emotional attachment to the card because maybe it won them their game, or maybe it was their first Magic card they ever played, and it's just this really unique feeling that you get here. Other cons are fun too, and you get to see like all sorts of different costumes and everything, but it just feels more like at home and like a little family like at GPs.
Yeah.
Jessica?
I feel the same way. It's kind of like certain characters stick out in a player's mind. So if you've done it, especially if it's a really like esoteric card, like, you know, that nobody really plays anymore, and they kind of come up to you and they feel this real connection, it's just really cool to have them interact with you. It's way different. Anime conventions are more about like, hey, I'm standing here, look at me.
Yeah,
do you see me in my costume? Hey, do you want to take pictures of me? Take pictures of me. And here it's about the game.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see people walking around in the costumes, but that's not why you're dressed up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not dressed up, take pictures of me. I love this character, I love this art or this artist, and so I guess it's more passionate here than at an anime convention or comic.
Yeah. Whereas at a convention, it could be so many different genres or different shows. At a Magic event like this, you know you're in your own community, and everyone is a part of the game, whether it's playing or the art or, I don't know, listening to podcasts. You know, it's your little community, and so everyone's a part of it.
I would also say that You also get to meet the artist here, which you don't get to do at anime conventions as much. Like there is Artist Alley and there's fan art, but you don't get to see like the people who actually make what you're dressing up as, and I think that's a really cool, special.
That's a good
thing.
point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
That's awesome. Okay, so one of the other things that happens a lot, when this is probably something that happens a little bit more with Magic Cosplay, I think. How do you determine finding like the photographers to actually take the pictures that you have on your Patreon or your Facebook page or whatever it is? Like, how do you go about that? Is there referral systems? Is it friends?
Yeah, it is a lot harder to get pictures of MTG cosplays.
Whoever you know that's a photographer.
Yeah.
Basically, instead of like going to a con and being able to take haul shots, it's more like, what can I get on my cell phone in a really good place? Or meeting, like going to like planning out a on-shoot location later. It's just a lot more difficult.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jessica, do you have any experience with that?
No,
right.
that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
All right, so one of the things that I was curious about that I'm sure a lot of people are curious about is, what are your go-to stores when you're designing a costume?
Oh man, Amazon.
Yes.
Amazon
Yep.
saves lives.
Amazon Prime.
Yep. Amazon, Harbor Freight, Home Depot.
Yeah, Home Depot is another big
Joanne
one.
and Michael's for
Joann's,
fabric.
Michael's. You also get really creative just typing into Google, like a specific thing. Like, for example, the boots I was wearing yesterday with Liliana are just really of a different career choice. And so you find yourself typing these things, opening an incognito tab on Google because you don't want anybody to know that you were looking up questionable career type boots, and you're on these crazy websites, but you go that extra mile because you're like, I need these boots. She's not wearing black thigh-high boots. She's wearing black thigh-high boots that are laced up the front, and these are the only ones, so my feet are going to suffer, and I'm going to wear them.
Sure. Okay, so one of the things that happens quite often is you're at a convention and something happens. A thread gets snagged on a table. You have some glue that goes, just starts to wear off a little bit, and a piece starts falling off. What would you suggest for a cosplay emergency kit while you're at an event?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Hot glue gun.
Yes.
We should let Vanessa answer
I
this
know.
because she has the first
it.
aid
She has the first aid kit.
I have duct tape. I have safety pins, scissors. What else do I have? Super glue.
Bobby pins.
Super glue.
Yeah.
Super glue is super helpful in a pinch because it dries really quick.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, is there anything else? Eye drops. If you're wearing contacts, do not ignore using eye drops because your eyes will thank you for it later.
You're not tired. Your eyes need the eye drops.
Yes.
It's not. You're not tired.
Give them
they need
water.
eye drops.
Okay, so we do have several questions that are from people that sent them in previously. If anyone has any questions at all, please feel free to approach our directors over here, and they will take down your questions, and we will ask them during the panel. So first one came from a lot of people. If you had the time, money, and materials, and they weren't an issue to you at all, and there was a particular cosplay you wanted to do, which one would you love to do?
Oh man.
Sarah Angel.
Ooh, that would be a good one.
Yeah.
I think for me it would be Ella Schnorn.
Oh,
I
wow.
really love Ella Schnorn.
Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that other choice.
Snap. Let me think about it for a minute.
Okay, look
I'll get back to you, I promise.
So one of the other ones that was asked a couple of times, but we'll say Jacob Sisson was one of the main people that asked this. Does a card or character's popularity factor you into deciding what to cosplay as?
Not really. I think that comes into more of something to consider when it's like what to bring to a GP. It's like, is it a modern event? Is it a standard event? Like, what are people there going to probably recognize the most? But when it comes to like picking a card to cosplay, it's usually whatever excites me the most art-wise. I'll either like want something that's going to challenge me to learn something new, or just I really like the way, like Blood Braid Elf for one. I love the art on that card, so it's so great to see it.
I think it also is important that you don't pick a card just because it's popular.
Yes.
Because to me, at least, when you dress up in a cosplay, if you have a connection to what you're cosplaying, you're going to emulate that better, and you're going to do a better job constructing it. not saying you can't construct any costume you want, but I feel like it also helps because then you feel like your time and effort is being put into something that you're really going to love wearing. And then when that person walks up and goes, Liliana, I love you. Like earlier, a little girl, she's not here, but she was like, she really wanted her picture with me because I'm her favorite. And it's like, you know, that makes you feel really good because you're like, well, she's my favorite too. So I'm with you on that. I like that.
Yeah. You definitely don't want to pick something that you don't like and spend months making it and then get to the end and realize, like, why, like, what have I done?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many people take pictures of you. And I think sometimes that's what people get in their minds, like, I want to be the star of the show. I want everybody to be stopping me everywhere I am. I'm playing a game. Yay, take my picture. And it's not worth that. It's, you got to love what you're doing. That's what matters. Yeah.
Having fun is the biggest thing with cosplay. Which just have fun and you can't do it wrong, really.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is great advice. So the next question comes from one of our alterists, Rebecca Peach Douglas, who is very good. Costume production is the work of magic. It requires close attention to detail. What single cosplay item took you the longest to make, and what challenges did you face in getting to your final product?
Oh man, someone else want to start this one off? I'm gonna think of it.
That's a good question.
Was there just one thing that you think?
Probably something armor based, and I don't even think it was
Armor-based?
magic related.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, yeah, I think it was. I was making Valkyrie Leona from League of Legends years ago, and the biggest thing is you can make all the armor that you want, and it can look totally sick. And then, how are you going to put it on your body?
Yeah, fixing.
Because so many of these fantasy characters have this unrealistic, like, the armor's just hanging on their skin somehow. And Ashlen, for example, actually both of them are really, really good at, like, you can't tell where they've fastened things onto themselves. And then when you see how they hide it, it's really cool. And then you learn that. And you're like, okay, cool, I got that. So definitely anything armor-based has taken me the longest because of the details and figuring out how to attach it to your body and not get overheated. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything armor.
I struggle more with the fabric side of things. Like, if I don't have a pattern, like, how is that made, like, from art to, because I don't know how to make a pattern myself. So it's like cutting the fabric to the shape you want, but then connecting it, and it's a challenge.
Sewing's a beast.
Very much so.
I would say the sword actually took me. I am really bad at doing props. I am so slow at it. This one probably took me a good, like, 3 or 4 months to make, just because trying to make it, like, detachable for when I travel, because I do travel and I wanted to be able to take the props with me. It took a while, but yeah.
That was something that Vanessa and I was actually just talking about, is that her staff is actually all one piece. So how do you...
It doesn't travel.
Yeah, how do you determine when you're going into a design like that? How do you think, you know, this has to travel or this doesn't need to travel, I should design it as X, as detachable, or that? How does that factor into it?
I mean, normally I just always try to make sure everything can fit in a suitcase, so it's more like, how can I hide it the best so that you won't be able to tell that it actually breaks down into 4 parts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Pretty much. You have to decide, like, is this going to be a cosplay that I only wear, you know, within driving distance, or is this something that I need to have portable? And if it needs to be portable, then you start thinking about, where can I detach this and then reattach it, and nobody will know. Like, I don't think anybody knows where that detaches and reattaches. I mean, you could probably guess, but she's going to show you.
Yeah, I want to show you.
Really cool.
So this actually detaches at the hilt, crossguard, I don't know. But then it screws in right here, so it actually just comes apart, so that it's just this part, and it fits in my suitcase.
That's awesome. Okay, we have one from the audience. A new set comes out. What do you look for inspiration, and how do the new cards stick out to you?
That's a good question. The stained glass armor in Dominaria is gorgeous. Like, that is one I eventually want to make one of those, but, like, trying to figure out how to do it so that it has, like, that glossy stained glass
totally
look.
Agree with you. Yeah. Things that stick out to me, I really like black, so a lot of black art sticks out to me, and I tend to just gravitate towards that, and I look at all the black art first, and if I can't find something that I feel fits me, then I'll kind of move on and go from there. I like strong females, which pretty much Magic just has tons of them.
Oh, yeah.
So I always just go for the females first, and I don't know, I just wait for something to speak to me, and a lot of times it's just you see a card and you're like, I think that's possible. I think I'm going to do that, and it kind of just forms from there.
Yeah, without reading the card, just like looking at the pictures and seeing what stands out. Like I picked a merfolk. It was a random I can't even talk. It was a random card. It didn't have a name, but I just loved the art so much that I wanted to make it into a reality. So that's just kind of how I pick it sometimes.
That's awesome.
For when it comes to picking out a card for me as well, like I like to look at, I'm better at sewing than armor building. So I look at like what is possible for me to do and how much time I have to do it. So if you have an event in 3 months, you don't want to make a full suit of armor, maybe something that it's easier and faster for you to build. So that's also something to take into consideration when you're making a costume.
Awesome. So this is another question. It's actually from our photographer today, Rob Johnson. And I'm sure this is something that anybody who has traveled via airplane with magic cards or anything like that has probably experienced. Have you ever had any issues with TSA or Homeland Security when having costumes and props in your luggage?
I actually have not, surprisingly.
Really?
I get my magic cards pulled out. My decks will always get pulled out, but my props, they're usually checked, though. They're usually in the check bag.
Okay.
Yeah, my stuff's always in a checked bag. The couple of times that I had to travel, and I always hate the dreaded TSA pamphlet thing on the inside because then you freak out and you're like, what's broken, what's touched, and a lot of times I think maybe they just open it because they're like, is that a sword?
Yeah.
And they just want to look at it. But generally, I find that most of the time, hard suitcase, that's the main point. You must have a hard suitcase if you're going to travel with this stuff, because not to speak ill of the people that are handling the bags, but they're not going to, okay, let's move this gently over here. They're going for efficiency, so they're going to be throwing suitcases, and you got to have that hard suitcase or your costume's just going to get busted up. So
yeah, using foam and bubble wrap is definitely helpful when you're packing.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you ever had any issues like that when traveling, that you find you open up your suitcase after a long flight and something is just completely destroyed?
Yeah, I made a Bloodbraid elf as well that I'm still working on, but I made the horns for the dinosaur, and I opened them up and the horns were broken in half, so I'm going to have to super glue them. But that's okay, it's just battle damage. Everything is battle damage in cosplay.
Yeah, if it gets broken, battle damage.
Yes,
battle
just
damage.
paste some brown on it, it's battle damage, it's good.
Yep.
Okay. Next, when deciding on a character to cosplay, what elements or design features really make or break your decision? Vanessa?
So I've never actually made angel wings. I'll be an angel tomorrow, but those have been made by a friend. So that's something I haven't done and would be a challenge for me. So I steer clear of angels normally. But yeah, other than that, like I like to brainstorm and figure out how I can make something, because a lot of the costumes I've made recently, I've done a new technique, and it's just a lot of trial and error, honestly.
Cool.
Yeah.
Jessica?
I don't really think there are any specific elements of a costume that would stick out to me. It's more of, again, kind of putting together, do I have the skills, or do I think I could learn how to make this? How realistic is it? Like some of them are just, that's too out of my realm, like Elishore. Like that's too out of my realm, But people have done it, It can be done, but sometimes you have to work your way up to that. So for me, normally I like, elves or sorceress type females. So that's why I gravitate towards those. It's just, I don't know. It's really difficult to say what sticks out to me. Sometimes I just see something and I'm like, I feel like I would look really cool in that, and I think I can make it. So,
normally anything that has a prop, I tend to navigate away from. But aside from that, I really like druids. Anything that's asymmetrical, just because I'm a perfectionist and it drives me crazy trying to make something like symmetrical. So I'm just like, it's supposed to be that way. But yeah, druids for sure, I think, and anything like tribal.
Okay, so kind of going off of that, and based a little bit on what Jessica was saying there, are there any pieces that you've looked at and thought, ooh, I really want to try this just to challenge yourself and see if there's like a new technique or a new way of doing things that you want to learn specifically because it looks like something that you could do? Has there ever been anything like that?
Anything by Therese, because everything that she draws is just so beautiful and detailed, and I'm so hesitant to start anything that she's drawn because I want to include every detail, and I want to make sure that it emulates the card as well as I can. And I did one card. I did the one version of Liliana Vest that she drew. And I still look at pictures of it and I'm like, I'm still missing pieces. Like, she made her look so like ethereal. That's like, her cards are very ethereal looking, and I just feel like there are bits and pieces missing. But her art I see it as a challenge every time I see it. I'm like, I don't know if I'm quite ready for that yet.
Speaking of Therese, that is one that's on my wish list. You asked earlier.
Yeah.
Hannah the Wayfarer has been on my wish list to do for a very long time. Yeah. So I hope to do that eventually.
Okay. We have one that has already... a few people have asked this. Generally, how much can be spent out of pocket on a given outfit? And yeah, just like, what's your budget usually going into it?
Who wants to start off?
I don't have a budget, so don't ask me.
That's really hard to say because, like, one of the number one rules in cosplaying is reuse. So, like, Ashlen probably made a different costume with these, and these are scraps, and they work perfectly because this is very swashbuckler type. You know, you find ways to reuse things. You reuse Warbler scraps, you reuse foam scraps, you reuse fabric scraps. You even take pieces of some costumes that you know you're never going to wear again, and you swap them into another one and just repaint them or cover them. So I don't really think I can put numbers, and trust me, I don't have a ton of money. It's just I generally don't keep track, like, I spent X amount on this costume, because a lot of times it just comes out of my closet. I'm using stuff, and I might have to buy specialized boots or specialized gloves, but otherwise, reuse.
Yeah.
Ashlen?
Reusing is, this hat is actually, the fabric I used for this hat is leftover fabric from my Elizabeth from BioShock Infinite cosplay that I made like 4 years ago. So I was just like, oh, this works perfectly. And use that.
Exactly.
I think it really depends on like your skill level and like how much you're looking to spend, because again, it can vary so much depending on like what you want to use material wise. Like, this is made out of something called Warbler, which is a thermoplastic, and it's not the most cheapest material in the world, but it does a really good job. But like, if you're going for like a full Warbler cosplay, that gets up into like hundreds of dollars probably. But you can also make stuff out of EVA foam, which is much more affordable and can still give you a really great look. So I mean, it depends on like if you're buying like shirts and altering them as well. So like, I would say from like 50 upwards is what your budget can be. Like, you're probably gonna be looking at like at least $100 to $200 for like, if you're trying to like save as much as possible.
Okay.
Yep.
So one of the keys is probably become a pack rat.
Yeah,
just
pretty
save
much.
everything.
Just hoard everything.
Just save everything.
Yep.
So kind of in a similar vein to what's your budget, and this is something that not a lot of people really think about probably when going into it for the first time, but what is your time budget essentially? How long does it typically take you to create from deciding on the character to finally being able to be in the cosplay?
Oh man.
It would be nice to have like 6 months to work on something, but realistically it's normally 2 to 3 months.
Yeah.
With most of the work being in the last 2 weeks.
Yes.
Yep, that is the truth. We were talking about that earlier. Sure, I started this cosplay 6 months ago, and I finished 90% of it in the past 2 weeks, not sleeping. There's a gentleman here that's wearing a really cool armored cosplay that he said he made in like 10 days or something. You know, so some people, they put their mind to it, and it's just, this is my life, it's going to consume me. But yeah, realistically, I'd like 5 months to make a cosplay, because you know, you have your job, you have school if you're in it, you have kids, you have families, you know, you don't want to desert your real life to consume yourself in making a costume. So 5 to 6 months is definitely a realistic time frame, but you generally get like 2 to 3 months.
Ashlen?
I would say the same. Usually about 2 to 3 months is as long as it takes me to build it. For Beckett Brass, I had 7 days. So that was the biggest challenge I've ever had, except for the sword. The sword was not done in time because it's a prop. But in general, yeah, 2 to 3 months. And if you're just starting out, give yourself more time. You wouldn't enjoy working on the costume and not hate yourself for rushing it at the end.
Generally, when you're doing that, though, are you focused on the one costume, the one cosplay, or are you generally like bouncing between a couple or multiple, maybe even upwards of 5, 6, 7, 8 or more?
I've tried doing multiple at the same time, and it is complete chaos. It's like trying to, the house is a mess. There's fabric flying everywhere. So I usually try to commit to one and focus on that.
Yeah, going along with that, you like designate one room or one half of a room to where you're just like, don't come in this room. I'm not vacuuming it. No visitors allowed. Leave my room alone because you're working till like 2 o'clock in the morning, and then you just leave it, go to bed, do everything the next day, come back, start working on it. Oh God, it's so true. Yeah.
Especially because you're so focused on the art for one specific thing. If you're trying to flip through, like your thoughts are going to get all mixed up, and it'll be really hard to focus on multiple costumes at the same time.
Yep.
Okay. All right. One from the audience. Will any of you ever cosplay as Tarmogoyf?
I've had so many requests for that,
right?
And I've actually found the perfect fabric at Joann,
so
but it hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened yet.
So you heard it here. It's probably going to at some point.
You heard it here first.
All right, so this is one that I think a few people would be interested in, especially newer people who have never thought about what goes into a cosplay. What are some of your favorite crafting materials, and what would you suggest that every cosplayer have in their supplies?
Honestly, I don't know if it's as much of a material, but hot glue is amazing. You can like glue an entire costume together if you need to. Like, do not shun hot glue. It's amazing.
You can make details with hot glue too. You can make the details on top of something and then let it dry, and then dry brush over it or paint over it, and it'll look like really intricate details. So never underestimate the like versatility of hot glue. Yeah. It's probably not going to keep your entire costume together, so you're going to have to learn to sew at some point, but it's definitely helpful. I think that even if you're just starting out, L200 foam, it's an open cell, or no, it's a closed cell foam, and you can use heat to heat it up as well, just like Worbla. Worbla is the thermoplastic. When it cools down, it's hard, but L200 is still malleable. And then I like Plastidip, which is really used on like tools and stuff. I don't really know what the actual use of Plastidip is, but it comes in a spray form now and in different colors. And you just throw a couple layers over it, and then you start painting over it. I actually have a couple other costumes outside of Magic that I've made with L200 and just painting over top of it. It's so much more comfortable because you're not getting jabbed by edges of Worbla. It's not warping on you, because you get Worbla warm and it's going to start warping again because that's how it's activated. A Dremel too is something I think you should have. Totally inexpensive, like $40. Doesn't have to be the Dremel brand. It's one of those things like Kleenex. Kleenex is a brand, but anything can be a tissue. A Dremel is really great to make beveled edges, which is what the edge on Ashlen's sword is, to make it look like a blade. That makes stuff so simple. Changing changing surfaces on something, creating details. You can do so much with a Dremel. So I think that those three things are like must have in your arsenal for cosplay.
Vanessa?
And if you're doing any type of sewing, don't forget to buy a seam ripper, because oh my goodness, you will need it. If you mess up, which you will need a seam ripper.
Okay, that sounds great. So another question from the same person, Gabby Carter, was how do you turn a 2D character into 3D? Do you alter the pieces of the costume to be more flattering on like your real self, like on a 3D body, than they appear on a 2D image?
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely, at any time. I'm a really big proponent of creative liberties. So I could not tell you what what Blood Braid Elf looks like down to every single detail unless I'm looking at the card. So I can't tell you what Vanessa's done differently, but I know that she's Blood Braid Elf. So I think it's really important to keep that in mind and to not, overwork yourself saying, gosh, I can't believe I don't have the exact shoes. I can't believe that I couldn't get the hat the exact way. Everybody's going to think that this is an awful costume and they're going to hate it. But then you're going to wear it and you're going to go to the convention or the event or whatever, and people are going to be taking pictures with you like, you look awesome. You are so, I almost cursed, you are such a great Blood Braid Elf. I love you. Like, you just kind of have to, it's a struggle. Trust me. It took me a long time to accept that every detail does not need to be exact.
Right.
Make it look good on you.
Yeah.
Make it look better. If you feel that runes look better on your sword, then put runes on your sword. Nobody's gonna say anything about that. So, very big proponent of that.
Vanessa, do you have any advice?
Yeah. I have in the past, you try to make something that you think looks exactly like the art, and then you put it on and you realize it doesn't look anything alike. So you realize you just have to adjust and work from there. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. So another one is, I think we already went over that. So one of the things is, as I've gotten into cosplay, this is from Jordan Barenhouse. As I've gotten into cosplay, I noticed there are times when there's a deadline approaching and I really just don't feel like working on my costume. Does this happen to you, and what do you do to help remedy this feeling?
Oh gosh, yes. I've had a Toronto cosplay that I have meant to wear to BlizzCon about 4 years ago, and I'm still every year I'm like, all right, this is the year, it's gonna happen. And it just doesn't happen. And I think it's important to recognize when you're at that moment where it's not gonna happen, and to not stress yourself and make yourself sick over finishing it. The point is to have fun at the convention, and it doesn't always have to be in cosplay. There's plenty of other things to do. One of the things I help to do to remedy that is try to start earlier on it. I try to figure out, where did I spend the most time? Did I spend too much time sanding this? Did I obsess over this detail? And try to remedy that with the next project.
Yeah. Something that helps me a lot, I make checklists for everything, and there are some nights when I just don't want to work on cosplay at all, but I know I need to, so I'll try to find one of the little things that I know won't take very long on my list, and I'll work on that for a little bit. And sometimes I feel motivated to do more that night, sometimes I'll just wait till the next day, but just doing a little bit here and there really helps.
Okay. Jessica, do you have anything else?
Nope, nothing to add. Exactly the same.
Just
exactly the same.
All right, sure. The last one's from the audience, and this is something that I know that it's a small portion, I believe, of the cosplay community, and it's just something. Have you ever tried or considered crossplay or gender-bent cosplay? And are there specific challenges that you or others might not expect when trying something like that?
Oh yeah, my Soren is a gender bend, and that was probably one of my ones I was most excited to make. I love doing gender bend cosplays. I haven't done a crossplay yet. So the difference between gender bend and a crossplay is where you go trying to look like if it's a male character, you try to present yourself as a male in that costume. A gender bend is where you take it and make it into something else, like Soren is presented as male and I presented it as female. So you're trying to find different things to kind of feminize the outfit or give it little details that make it look like, oh, it's more of a dress now instead of a full suit.
Yep. Yeah, I've never actually done any, but Jace was on my list for a long time because Jace and Liliana were always my top. And of course, I can't ship myself with myself, but I wanted to gender bend him because I had seen a girl, and I unfortunately don't know who it is, but I had seen her do this really cool fan art, which didn't, make him look too different. You could still recognize that it was Jace, but it was a really cool, feminine take on it. And I always wanted to do it and just, never got around to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I did a version of Dak Faden, but I knew at the level that I wouldn't be able to do the male version myself and do it justice. So I kind of changed a little bit. I gave her boots, but with heels, and just changed a little bit, so you could still tell who it was, but it was just a fun take on it.
Okay, so there's probably just different challenges between trying to present as the other gender versus trying to create. What would you say is the biggest challenge with trying to gender bend a male like a male character into a female?
I think trying to identify what parts of it make that character, like what of this character should I keep so that if I make it into a dress, someone's gonna go, I know you're Soren still.
Okay.
I think trying to find a way to incorporate that.
Yeah. And the other thing is, not that, other people's opinions should matter, but you don't really want to change it so much to where they're like, like the personality is totally different, okay. Like Jace would never wear that. Like, why are you wearing a bikini? That's not Jace. I mean, who really cares what another person thinks? But at the same time, it's like, you want to kind of keep it in the same vein. He's very, I'm mysterious and everybody hates me.
Stay true to the character, but
exactly.
not get mired down in the details.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and so we're going to be hosting the Cosplay Contest here in just a little while, so we're going to finish up pretty quick. One of the last questions that I'm going to ask is, what would be your top tip for someone who is new to cosplaying?
I mean, honestly, it really is. It sounds cheesy, but have fun. Like, seriously, just enjoy making the costume. You're going to be excited to wear it. Like, don't stress out about the details and like what people are going to think. Just, make sure that you're going to be comfortable and proud of what you're wearing. And honestly, the rest really doesn't matter. Just have fun.
Jessica?
Definitely having fun is definitely important, but I think it's also important not to get yourself so caught up in making it super perfect. And I keep saying that because it was something I struggled with for a long time, and I beat myself up over it, and it would be the day of the convention, and I'm like, I don't have the staff, and it doesn't look perfect, and now I can't walk out, and all these people are going to be upset with me, and they're going to be like, that girl's cosplay sucked all day. And then you go out and you're like, I feel awesome. Like this little girl up front here as the Nicole Bolas. Like,
amazing.
Of course she's not in like full armor or anything, but she looks so cool, right? And you know who she is. You can recognize her because she kept the main parts of him, so you know. And a lot of times people are more receptive to like drastic takes on costumes. If you do gender bend something, or maybe you come in as a meme of something or what have you. If you're having fun, you're going to get good reactions out of people. If you're walking around and you're bummed out and you're just like, nobody's going to want to take my picture, like, well, then nobody's going to take your picture because nobody wants to be around you. But most important thing, stop worrying about having every detail correct. It's not worth it. Just get in it, go out there, have a great time. Don't let other people hold you back, and just own it.
Vanessa?
I would say, if you don't know how to do something, ask.
Yeah.
Like, I asked Ashlen multiple times, like, I'm doing blood braid, I know you're doing it too, how do I do this? Like, if you don't know, ask someone that you follow that you know is a cosplayer, or if you don't know anyone, then YouTube it or Google. You can always find answers, but I know all of us are always willing to answer cosplay questions because we're still learning as we go.
Yep. Yeah, cosplay is constantly learning. I think one other thing really quick, sorry, I have two. Okay.
No, it's fine. That's fine.
Is definitely try it on before you wear it, and make sure you can move and breathe in it, because you don't want to pass out mid-con. There have been people, it has happened. It sounds funny, but make sure that you can actually move around in it. You can sit down in it. That's another big one. And again, you don't want to pass out, so make sure you can breathe in it.
Yeah, that's a big one. I've definitely seen people who have had very restrictive cosplays before, and it seems like a problem. Okay, so I think we're going to wrap that up.
Hold on, I have one more thing. One more thing.
Sure.
Don't be afraid to tell people you can't touch me or you're making me uncomfortable. Because a lot of times, for example, like I'm revealing a little more than, I would wear outside. And sometimes it is malicious from someone, and sometimes you just don't realize you're doing it. Feel comfortable saying, I really would prefer that you don't touch that, or do you mind if I touch your sword? Everybody has been so respectful to us.
Yes.
No weird touching, no looming, no, can I look at your sword? I'm absolutely cool if you look at my stuff, and I'm okay if you touch me in appropriate areas. But that's really important because it's your body, and if that person wants to walk away and think that, you're every bad word in the dictionary, then let them, because it doesn't matter. Your comfort and your body is yours. Yeah. So don't worry about it.
That is something that's come up quite a bit at conventions, and you do see signs saying cosplay is not consent. Please ask before. Yeah. Even taking pictures or something like, hey, can I put my hand around your shoulder and things like that. So that is definitely some good advice. So thank you everybody for coming out. We will be holding the cosplay contest here at 4 o'clock. That is roughly an hour and 20 minutes away. Thank you so much to Ashlen and Jessica and Vanessa for coming out, and thank you to everyone for coming out to the panel. Enjoy the rest of your SCG Con.